I'm Raina.
And I'm Phil.
And welcome back to 1 Minute Board Games. Today we are coming back at you with 5 more first impressions. So if you haven't seen our first episode, be sure to go ahead and check that out. And we're going to leave a box up here for you to click.
So last week we were able to make a trip to Seattle, and we were lucky enough to be invited to play some board games with Kasey and Miguel, or better known as Brain in a Jar and Johnny Deathhawk.
So the two of them do stream board games on Twitch a few times a week, and if you're interested in checking out their work, we're going to go ahead and leave their Twitch channel in the description box, so be sure to check that out. And they actually did introduce us to and teach us the first 2 games we're going to be talking about today.
So without further ado, let's get started.
All right, so first up we got Nidavellir.
Yep. So Nidavellir is like a hidden bidding system where you are bidding for these different kinds of dwarves, and so it mixes bidding with set collection. So Nidavellir is apparently like a dwarf land, I think.
Which I guess makes sense because in that one Thor movie, when they go, I don't know if it's Thor, it might be one of the Avengers movies, but they go to forge.
Oh, maybe it's Avengers, huh?
I think it might
Avengers.
be, yeah. When they go to forge
Stormbringer?
I'm the worst. I have Marvel tattoo right here. I'm the worst freaking fan ever. But they go and then it's Peter Dinklage, isn't it?
Yeah.
He's a big dwarf.
He's a big dwarf.
So that makes sense.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So you are basically set collecting these different colored dwarves, which represent their different types of factions. So some of them are hunters, some of them are warriors, and they each score differently. But the really cool thing is this hidden bidding system. Yeah. So you each have these 5 like nice chunky coins, cardboard coins, and so the round starts by everyone bidding on these 3 different taverns, and each tavern is populated with a certain number of dwarf cards. So everyone is going to bid all at the same time, and once everyone's done bidding for all of them, everyone reveals, and then starting from the highest bidder to the lowest, you are going to
pick a dwarf. And depending on, which dwarves you're going for, you're probably going to bid higher. But it's also super cool because if you decide, like, okay, maybe I don't want any of the dwarves in this specific house, what you can do is forfeit, or I guess we played it a bit wrong, but what you can do is you can upgrade your coin instead. So what you would do is, how does it work again?
So you have 2 coins on the very bottom. You start with 5 coins, and in the game you're almost always going to have 5 coins, but there is 1 coin that's a 0 bid. So as a 0 bid, you are going to be last to pick, but what is cool is that you get to upgrade the 2 coins on the bottom. You don't upgrade the 2, you just add up the sum of the 2, get rid of your highest one, and collect from that. So if I had a 3 and a 4 on the bottom, I would combine it to get a 7, but I would get rid of my 4 coin. But now I have a 7 coin to go against other people to bid, and it's just so cool. Like this whole upgrading the coin system was wonderful, and it has like a little cardboard like table where
with all the coins. It was super cool. The production quality was really great. We did play it wrong when we played it though, which is why I got a bit confused and I was explaining it earlier. The way that we had played it was that if you bid your 0 coin, which is when you get to upgrade your 2 coins, we were forfeiting drafting a dwarf from the house. But we realized after that you actually do still get to take a dwarf from the house, but you just go last. So I think playing with those rules will make it a lot more interesting because
everyone is still going to be collecting dwarves, even if you go last. So, but yeah, I think it's a great game. It felt a bit short to me, honestly.
I wanted to keep playing.
I did too. So there are 2 rounds, age 1 and age 2, and in between the 2 ages, if you have collected the most of a certain color, no ties, then you get like a special card which gives like a bonus to you. And I just wanted that for every single bidding round that we had.
Yeah, that'd be pretty crazy. I feel like that'd be a bit OP though.
Maybe.
It's tough because like there's no ties. So if 2 people tie for, let's say, the red house, then nobody gets it. And that's what happened when we were playing. A lot of people tied and no one ended up getting any special ones. Yeah. But yeah, it's a super fun, light game and definitely recommend.
Yeah, it's actually a surprisingly pretty easy teach. All you have to get get them started is to tell them it's like a bidding game. And
set collection.
Yeah, set collection. It has a really nice system of how it scores just on the board. So yeah, it's a great game. I
Can't
would
wait.
love to try it.
Yeah,
again.
can't wait to play it again. Unfortunately, it is sold out right now and like basically everywhere. We came home from Seattle and I went straight to our local game store and I
Please
couldn't
have it.
find it. So I'm heartbroken right now, but we would love to own this and get it back to the table.
So next up we have Mercado de Lisboa.
So this game is actually built on the city building system from the actual big game Lisboa, which is designed by Vital Lacerda, who co-designed Mercado de Lisboa. And this is an economic tile placement game. So basically your money is going to be your points at the end of the game. So it's super important what you do with that money throughout the entire game. You are going to be building restaurants and stands. And if you have a like restaurant next to a like stand, like if you have the tomato stand next
With
to
the
like
pizza.
the pizza restaurant, the Italian restaurant, then you get extra points for those. But the thing is, the restaurants are not owned by any single person. So once a restaurant is out there on the board, people can build stands around it that combo off of it. So it was very like nitty gritty in that like you didn't want to build any restaurants.
So we were playing a 4-player game, and going last, you have a nice benefit of getting like I think it's called a pub.
Yeah,
And
it's
that
special.
basically combos with every single kind of stand. But at the same time, I didn't want to use it because it was giving everyone else, like, it gave everyone else points because
Yeah.
they could combo it off that. And then I also wanted to build market stands, but at the same time, the problem was that if you are building in the same row or column, it increases the price of the market stand. And so I had no place to actually build because it was so expensive for me. And I was really struggling to get going.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. So after you build the restaurants and the stands, you can actually start to introduce these customers who have preferences for different types of cuisine. And that's how you basically score the majority of your points because they're going to be paying based on where your restaurants are. But that kind of comes in the latter half of the game because the beginning half is sort of just setting up your stands and your restaurants so that you can make as much money as you can when you introduce the customers, because once a customer takes a row, then that is blocked for the rest of the game.
Yep. It's just such a tight game in the very beginning, and it's also pretty claustrophobic with 4 players. It was just like everyone was building and it just filled up the market so fast, but I just felt broke the entire game. And towards the latter half, the maybe like 3/4 of the way through the game, everyone was placing out their customers and getting so many points, and I was just like struggling in the back, just trying to taking just a little bit.
Yeah, it's a very small map, and it's advertised as an easy to learn but very difficult to master, and like it's advertised as a filler, very thinky game, which I think is so true.
It feels weird to say filler thinking, you know? When you think of fillers, you don't really want to think that much. You kind of just want to do stuff.
It's kind of a quick play.
Yeah, it definitely was, especially at 4 players, because the game ends when the grid of, I think it was 5x5, when there are only 4 spaces left. And so it can quickly just...
Yeah, so at the end, people were just scrambling to go ahead and get customers out so they can get points. I do agree that I think that last player has a severe disadvantage, especially in a 4-player game.
Either that or I just played it pretty wrong. Like, I think I was just too stingy with my pub. I should have just put it out there, got that extra buck. But yeah, I would like to try it again. But my first playthrough, it was pretty difficult for me to grasp like how to get everything. I think I also just am pretty combo heavy, so I wanted like my thing next to my 3 markets and then just score that way, and I think that's not the right way to go about trying to win in that game.
And also, it was our first time meeting Kasey and Miguel, so we were having like full-blown conversations in the middle of this thinky game. So
They're having conversation. I was just like,
you and Miguel were just like, are you guys gonna go? So I do agree, I would like to try it again. All right, so next up we got Cosmic Frog.
Yeah, so Cosmic Frog is this like psychedelic cosmic mashup of things.
frogs.
Yeah, it's like, it is such a trippy game, and the art is gorgeous. Okay, so in Cosmic Frog, you are a 2-mile tall cosmic frog entity, invulnerable being that is just going around like the universe, eating up different parts of the land from what is called the Shard of the Eighth or something like that. And I've heard it being called Battle Azul, as our friend likes to say it. And yeah, it was kind of very much like that. So in the game, you have this grid of tiles, and you are going to be landing on these grids, and you're going to be eating up these different land tiles. The cool thing about this game is it's very similar to
Cosmic Encounter.
I don't think I'm thinking of Cosmic Encounter, but it's I'm thinking of that game, this one, Aeon's End.
Oh.
Where you have your cards that dictate whose turn it is. And so you shuffle a whole bunch of cards. In a 3-player game, we had 6 cards each. So there were 18 cards in there. You shuffle it up, and then you flip over the top card. Whoever color it is, that's whose turn it is. So it very much reminded me of Aeon's End. And so on your turn, it depends on if you are on the shard or if you're in the Aether. And you can just do some crazy things like eating up tiles, which go into your gullet, and then you have to go into the Aether to then spit up this land into your vault, which is somewhere in your gullet probably.
Oh, I thought it was like your stomach.
Well, I mean, you eat it, right? It's in your gullet.
It's chilling in your gullet, and then you spit it out into your vault. Oh yeah, because it comes back up this way.
It comes out through the gullet.
Yeah.
It's so weird.
It's so
such
cool.
a trippy game.
So like the Azul part of it is kind of like tile placement, but like super strategic, because at the end of the game, there's 4 different terrains, and then there's like a highland and like a lowland, and the highland scores more than the lowland. And when you regurgitate these lands, because when you swallow the lands, it's going
from
bottom to top into your gullet, and then when you regurgitate, it comes from the top back up. So then the one at the very top is the one that you have to place first into your vault. And so you have to be strategic, because at the end it's going to score based on how well you place it. And you see, the battle part of this is you can go around, beat up other frogs, make them open their mouth, reach your arm in there, and steal the tiles.
That is definitely not the way it's working. Kali Ma over here. No. So the way I imagined it is that there are 2 frogs ramming into each other, and whoever is the stronger one rams into the other frog, which then causes so much force that the tiles come out of the map. You know,
that's more accurate.
Makes way more sense.
But mine would sell more copies. So it's also super cool because you have like these power cards, and they're all freaking insane. But then after the end of a round, which is when all the cards are done, everyone has to give it back. Or you don't have to.
No, so there is something called I believe it's something split. It might be like an Aether split or something like that, which causes everyone to either discard their power and receive a new one, or they can spend what is called oomphs. Oomphs. They're called oomph, but it's the shape of an omega. And yeah, you can spend it. That is pretty much how you're doing a lot of these things, is by spending your oomph. Yeah. And you only have a limited amount. You only have 6 in the game, and you can use it during your turn, or you can spend your turn to just like reclaim them all. And yeah, so you have to spend oomph to do a lot of things. And if you wanted to, you can spend it to keep your power or just get a new one, because there's so many cool ones.
Yeah, they're all cool. I was not upset with any of the powers that I had. And then the way that the battle system works is you basically just roll a die.
Yep.
But there's 3 different colors, white, yellow, and red in that order. And basically as you increase, they get better. And the type of dice that you roll depends on where you are when you're fighting, and also based on your power card.
Yeah, so your power card will tell you what color dice you get to roll. And so when you're fighting against someone, if you get to roll a red dice, which is the best one, versus someone that has a white dice, you know, you can definitely beat them up, and you can send them out into the outer dimension, which that's where you can like
That's where your vault is vulnerable.
Yeah. So normally the vault isn't vulnerable, but if you're tossed into the outer, you can start taking from it somehow. It's so trippy, but the art was amazing.
It came with a playmat, which is probably it has a pretty high price point if I'm being honest. It really does,
but the production quality is amazing.
Yeah, all of the tiles are super thick.
Yeah. Although I will say it took a long time to set up. So that's a bit of a deterrent. The rules are kind of long. There's a lot of backstory. Like if you eat too much tile, the lowest one is said to get taken out by like
the star that lives inside you.
It's so cool, but
yeah, I thought the game was super cool. I think that in the beginning, the term Battle Azul did not make sense, but after we were done playing, I'm like, oh, that does make sense, but not in the way that you would think that it did.
I think for this type of game, you need to think of it kind of like Cosmic Encounter, where things.
There's crazy powers. It might be unbalanced, and you just have to go around and like fight each other. Like you're gonna get beat up. People are gonna steal tiles from you.
That people are going to take from you, and you have to be okay with that. It can be sometimes kind of mean, but I think if you're into that, you're gonna love this game. So next game, Merchant's Cove.
Merchant's Cove is a highly asymmetrical Euro game. So basically, you have these adventurers that are arriving at Merchant's Cove, and each player is playing a different merchant trying to sell them different goods. But the cool thing is, every player has a completely different way of coming up with goods to sell. And for the most part, I feel like each of the different merchants kind of focus on a different game mechanic.
Yes, pretty much.
So go ahead.
So mine, I was the dragon breeder, I believe. And so mine had a mix of like, kind of like Mancala, but also like just taking care of. I don't know if dungeon pets is part of this gameplay, but I thought of that immediately when I saw it. I don't even know what the gameplay is like in Dungeon Pets, so if I am totally incorrect, just disregard everything. But how was yours like?
So mine was the innkeeper, and I think it's important to note that both of our factions or our merchants, they were expansions. They're not in the base game. But it was cool. So mine didn't really focus on selling goods to the adventurers. It was focused on providing places for them to stay after they come in and buy everyone else's stuff. I could still sell goods, but I couldn't sell like the most expensive type of good.
Weren't you selling like beer or something?
Yeah, but it was like it was small. Yeah. So a common criticism that you've heard about this game is that there's not really any player interaction, which I think is kind of true.
Yeah, I think it's definitely true in that, the only interaction that you have for the game is when people cross a certain time threshold, they have to send out a meeple, a randomly chosen one, and put it onto a boat. And when the boat is full, it gets docked to wherever the person that put it there
decides it goes, basically.
Yes.
And then depending on which color meeples or which colored adventurers are on the dock depends on which color goods you can sell to them. So it's a bit of a toss-up between preparing for how many goods you want to sell and for what type of goods you want to sell, but you also have to make sure that there are even adventurers there at the dock for you to sell to.
So there was another player that was playing the Alchemist, which is kind of like Potion Explosion with like marbles and stuff like that. Yeah. Another player was playing.
It was like a roll and write.
Potion? Yeah, it was kind of like.
It was a roll and write, basically. So it was super cool. I think I would absolutely want to try this again. I had a great time. You kind of are in your own little bubble playing your own little mini game, but that doesn't matter to me, to be honest. I don't really care about player interaction. So it would be fun for me to experience all the other different types of merchants that there are. And the base game comes with, I don't know how many, to be honest. It's 4 players. But there's a bunch of different expansions as well. And so I think I do want to explore all of them. Yeah. It does have a little bit of a high price point, but I mean, the production quality is amazing. But that would probably be the only thing stopping me from buying our own copy. I think I would probably just play it with someone else who owns it.
Yeah. So like every boat is their own little cardboard boat, which is really stylized, super cool. And then each player also has their own board, which also, I believe each player has a cardboard like stand. It could be a stand, it could be like a ranch, it could be, I don't know, another table.
It's very thematic to what type of merchant they are.
Yeah, it's super cool. I believe, what am I trying to say? That I think the replay value of the game is really good because there's so many different types of games you want to try. But I do get the criticism that, you know, if you
value player interaction in a game,
yes,
probably not for you.
But I was thinking, like, even though everyone is doing something different and you think that like game mechanic is cool, you won't be interacting with it at all. You are just playing your own little mini game. And you know, sometimes if you like that mini game so much, you might as well play like an actual game with that mechanic that does it, you know, better. But I think it's a super cool concept in that everyone is playing their own little mini game, but you're all doing the same exact thing, which is selling the different types of goods to the patrons.
The overarching goal is the same.
Yeah. So the asymmetric part of it, but I am interested. It
comes at a cost.
Yeah, I definitely am interested in trying out the different factions and seeing how that kind of skews my opinion of the game.
If your friend has a copy of it, I highly suggest playing it with them and checking it out. All right, so last but certainly not least, we have Kanban EV.
Kanban EV, what a game! We've only played it once, so
we just played it yesterday.
Yeah, every single game on our list we've only played once, so this is why it's the first impression. Anyways, this game is just so cool. So it's designed by Vital Lacerda, and it is this giant factory. We are essentially working in a car manufacturing company, and we are working every single different department and doing different things. So you can either give parts to build the car and move the conveyor belt along, or you can get tiles and research different designs. And you can also, what else can you do? You can go to administration, which does everything. There's also, like, every department you have to train in them to get certified. It's like working at an Amazon factory, the board game.
Yeah, you're exploited.
And that might not seem very like a
might
good
not
game,
seem fun,
but it's actually great. It was so cool. And you know, classic Vital Lacerda, everything is just like
intertwined and just uses each other. And
it's like a very circular design. So this part connects with that part, which connects with that part, and everything was just one giant circle.
And it's super cool because there's this, is she like the owner of the place, or she's like the manager? The
Sandra.
HBIC, Sandra, who is basically breathing down your neck and is constantly evaluating you to see how you're doing. And she goes through each department, and if you don't meet like the minimum threshold, like for example, you don't have a minimum of 2 designs in your little player board, then you get docked. You get docked 1 point plus 1 point for like every certain like time.
There's this concept of bank shifts, and essentially when you are playing the game, you pick a certain department and how many shifts to work there. And the more shifts that you work, the more actions that you can take. Most of the departments have 2 or 3, and then you have this extra thing called bank shifts where you can add on to the shifts on the board. You can never go above maximum of 4 shifts, but for every shift usually there's an action on the board that you can take. But yeah,
this game was so cool. With the 3 of us, literally the whole entire game, I kept on saying like, oh, this game is so freaking cool.
Yeah, literally you can hear us right now. All we're saying is that was so cool, you know?
I think the theme is really fresh.
Yeah, it's surprising.
It's super
I
cool.
don't think I've really seen anything about like
building
cars.
Or a factory.
You usually see like racing cars, you know, like downforce.
And you do everything. You know, you get the design plans, and you also have to get the parts, and you have to make the cars, and you take the cars into your garage, then you upgrade the design plans.
Yeah, you have to put it into your garage. You get these tiles, which can either get you a car or it can upgrade the car. And when you upgrade the car, it like makes all the other cars harder to upgrade. And so it's all very much there. It's a very zen game.
The production is amazing as well. Seeing all the little cute cars out was really...
I mean, Eagle Griffin Games, they always knock it out of the park with their games. It's always a very high production, bit on the pricey side, but
yeah, but worth it.
I totally think they're worth it. The games, they're so great.
So we've played one other Vitalacerta game, which is Lisboa, and I think that we both agree that Kanban was a bit easier to learn, a bit more intuitive, a bit more flowy, I would say.
I think it definitely is, like she was saying, more intuitive in that you kind of know what like things do, you know, and how they connect. With Lisboa, it was harder for me to visualize.
That's why they have like the big reference booklet too.
Yeah, and I think I also just dug the theme of like it doesn't seem cool working in a factory, but it turned out really awesome. And I don't know how else to explain it. It was just a lot of moving parts that worked very well together.
So like it didn't really feel like you had any wasted turns because there was so much to do, and there's a lot of things that you could do with what you had on your board, you know? It was a bit tough because it's like worker placement, so if people are taking the place of the department that you want to work at, you kind of got to improvise and do something else. But like I said, I don't really feel like I had any wasted turns.
Yeah. And I also think there was this really cool concept where each department that you're working at, since you are a new employee, you can spend your time to train. And by training in the department, you can unlock these other cool things, which you can, you know, get more resources or get spare parts or do homework to get more training. And yeah, I thought that was, you know, a little bit of, not so much engine building, but like, you know, you got that slight little, it's just like an extra bonus for doing more work than others. So we give it a thumbs up.
Thumbs up, and Great. I cannot stop thinking about it. Do you want to play it?
Yeah, I want to play it again.
Do you want to play it after this?
Yeah, maybe. We might have to bust out another game of it.
If you're thinking about trying a Vitalacerta game, I think, you know, granted, we haven't played them all. We do own a lot of them. But I think this is a great contender to start off with.
Maybe we'll come back to it once we've finished the other 3 games that we have. We still have Vinos, On Mars, Gallery.
All right, so our camera died on us for a bit there, but TLDR, check out Kanban EV.
Don't mind us.
All right, so that was 5 more first impressions of some games that we played recently. If you have played any of these games, let us know what your first impressions were in the comments below.
Yeah, and let us know if you enjoy watching this type of video, because we certainly like to talk about our first impressions of like new games that we get to play. So yeah, let us know, and we'll see you in the next one.
Bye.
Bye.